Well, first of all, I want to thank incredible partners I have here today, starting with Rochester Chief of Police David Smith and the whole department for hosting us here today. This is a building that I'm not unfamiliar with. I've been here many times. And also, my husband spent a lot of time walking through these halls when he was United States Attorney. So we said, say hi to everybody on my way over. You know, when I'm here, I'm also thinking about the fact that there's an upcoming trial in a case that broke our hearts when we lost one of our finest, the senseless killing of police officer Anthony Majerkowitz. And I want to, again, extend our sympathies to his family as they have to relive the pain as this trial proceeds. But the bottom line is justice will be done, and this community will receive peace, the peace it deserves. And the fact that he stood up and risked his life to serve others, like the people in this room, it's a risk you take. But they deserve, as all of you do deserve, our unwavering support now and forever. And let's just be recommitted to that cause. Today we're here to launch a comprehensive new strategy to combat something that I don't think anyone could have foreseen a short time ago, and that is a surge in car thefts across the state. And to all the car thieves out there, I have one message. You've reached the end of your road. I held a roundtable discussion with partners in law enforcement that I've now convened for the 4th time since I became governor. We talk about public safety across our federal, state, and local governments and what we can do. And I want to thank the leaders here, starting with our county executive, Adam Bello. You have leaned hard into the responsibility we have to protect the public and found innovative ways to especially reach out to young people before they head down a path that might be irreversible. So to our county executive, I thank you for your support. And of course, our mayor. Many conversations, again, the same focus on protecting the public, but ensuring that we reach out to people and say there's a better path and giving young people other alternatives. Our Sheriff Todd Baxter, I thank you and your team for the extraordinary work that they have done for many, many years, as well as, I don't know if our county clerk is here, Jamie Romeo has joined us perhaps. Hi, Jamie, how are you? Good to see you. And guess, again, we have our chief of police here as well, and I want to thank him. We have some of our elected officials, Assembly Member Harry Bronson. These are my partners in trying to solve the crime problem in this area. Sarah Clark has joined us as well. Thank you. Assembly Member Jen Lensford, Assembly Member Josh Jensen, and a person who knows, who's worn many hats, many hats, particularly back to his time as chief of police for this great city, and that is our friend Bob Duffy. So thank you, Bob. I also joined by our DMV commissioner. The DMV Commissioner Mark Schroeder hails from Buffalo, not too far down the road, so he knows this area well. And he is also at the forefront of the fight to protect the owners of the vehicles that his organization registered. So, we think about what has happened since I've been in office just 2 years. There was a big spike before I became governor, a lot of it associated with the COVID pandemic. Somehow society everything seemed to fall off the wheels. I mean, there was a lot of disruption in life. And crime surged, not just in New York, all across the nation. And we have worked really hard together to drive down the incidences of gun violence and violent crimes. And so now, this is a good news story. We're back to the historic lows of the pre-pandemic period, particularly here in Rochester. Those are good numbers. Again, I go back to this strong partnership that don't always assume is there. My understanding of a lot of law enforcement entities, there's silos. People get in their own space. They have different people they report to. The United States Attorney's Office, Ports Department of Justice. We have our state team who actually reports to me. And we have our local officials who report to the people who elect them. And so you have different issues and challenges. But to bring a cohesive approach is not easy, but it is necessary. And that is why this strong partnership, I believe, in bringing resources where they matter to communities like Rochester and Monroe County have made a difference. Murders are down 28%. Now, there could have been a time we'd be standing here saying murders are up 28%. So let's not take that statistic. Overall violent crime is actually down 12% since 2021. So that is good news. But here we have car thefts have created such a different dynamic here when you want to look at the overall crime statistics and you think, well, aren't they going down? Don't we feel a little bit better? But when you have one outlier, one category of crimes that is driving up all the rest, that's a real challenge for us. Too many New Yorkers are waking up in shock to an empty driveway, or walking outside the barber shop and finding out the vehicle that got them there is no longer sitting at the curb, and seeing one of their most valuable possessions. Cars are not inexpensive. It is your second most expensive possession after your housing. Having that disappear gives you the sense of helplessness. How are you going to get around? And when it's stolen or some of the parts are stolen, it can just absolutely wreak havoc. Think about the fact that the cars we're talking about, Kias and Hyundais, not the most expensive brands you can find. We're not talking about luxury vehicles. So who buys these vehicles? People don't have a lot of resources. These might be low-wage earners who have no other way of getting to their jobs, or if you're a nurse, getting to the hospital to take care of your patients, or a home health care aide, or someone who's working at the local grocery store. This is their lifeline to their jobs and their paycheck. Those who are only paid when they show up to work, a waitress who's not going to get tips because she couldn't get to work because someone stole her vehicle. Now you're hitting people who are the most vulnerable, taking away something that is essential to their lives and their livelihood. That's why this is personal. They don't have the ability to open up the garage and pull out their second or third vehicle because they don't exist. And there's not plentiful public transportation. You're not jumping on the subway to get to your job in upstate New York. So we have a real problem. Look at how car thefts are skyrocketing, absolutely skyrocketing. We talked about catalytic converter thefts a few years ago. We sprang into action, says this cannot happen. We launched an aggressive target approach to deter criminals from stealing catalytic converters and putting responsibility on the chop shops to have to record and prove the legitimacy of the component parts, the catalytic converters coming in the door. You could steal a catalytic converter and walk out with $200. Not anymore. We were able to stop that one. But car thefts overall remain on the rise here and all across the country. In a study of 30 major cities, car thefts are up more than 33% the first half of 2023 compared to the previous year. But I'm not worried about the other cities across the country. I'm looking at our own. These statistics are staggering. What is happening in Erie County, in Monroe County? New York City's up 20%. That needs to go down. Other parts, the North Country, Mohawk Valley down 50%. Hudson Valley, Southern Tier down 24%. So something is happening here. The nature of the problem has clearly changed because car thefts are decreasing in other parts of our state. But we're starting to hear similar challenges in Onondaga as well. Their car thefts are up 36% in August alone. Mostly, guess what? Older Hyundais and Kias being targeted. So millions of these vehicles made back between 2011 and 2022. We're not talking about the new vehicles. We're talking about the older ones. They're easy to steal because they lack a basic anti-theft device. And back in 2021, a social media video surfaced that showed how easy it was to hotwire these vehicles using a simple USB cable. And it wasn't just showing how simple it was, it became a trend. And who doesn't want to be part of a trend? That's what happened. It spread. It became viral. Seems like everybody knew how to steal these vehicles. And thefts have been on the rise ever since. Like I said, the newer vehicles don't have the problem, and there's a free software update available to fix, but it requires a visit to a dealer. And about 80% of the Hyundais and Kias on the road today remain vulnerable. So it's been all over the news. People know about it, but it has not stopped. As I mentioned, the Crime Analysis Center here in Monroe County analyzed all the car thefts in the first half of the year. 75% of the thefts were Hyundais and Kias. So that brings us down to what we're seeing in our city. Car thefts are up 829%. Buffalo, it's 488%. That's 3,000 vehicles, 2,100 vehicles stolen. 2/3 of the state's car thefts happen in 2 cities alone. Think about that. 2/3 of all the state's car thefts happening in 2 cities, Buffalo and Rochester. And then thieves go on to commit other crimes as well. With their stolen vehicle, they get this sense of invincibility. They can steal from someone else, assaults, rob a store. And of course, our local law enforcement, who wants to be out there solving other crimes, has had to be diverted, their attention diverted, our criminal justice system diverted because of this phenomenon. Now, it creates major challenges for enforcement and prosecution. Less than 1 out of 10 car thefts are resulting in an arrest. And in that times, the convictions are small. Financial costs, the insurance reimbursement for a stolen car in New York, the average is $10,000. What are you supposed to do with $10,000? It's not going to buy your next vehicle. It's not going to buy the next Kia or Hyundai. So then you're stuck. Like I said, in Rochester, we had over 3,200 thefts. Direct costs of more than $32 million. Insurance, that gets passed on to other rate holders in the form of higher premiums. And it's also inherently dangerous. Look at the accidents. Kids getting killed from stolen vehicles. Kids are joyriding. Some aren't even old enough to have a license. They have no idea what they're doing. It's a dare. It's a bet. It's a challenge. It's a rite of initiation into gangs. How many have you stolen? I read a report, which I still can't believe, one person bragging about stealing 300. And last year, as we saw in Buffalo, 4 people died in a stolen Kia. And a car that's operated recklessly, because you have to be pretty reckless to steal a vehicle, that car becomes a weapon. That can hurt other people on our highways. And we can no longer accept this as the status quo. I've told my team, work hard, press everything, press all the options, go as far as we can to come up with a solution. And I expect, just like we saw with shootings and murders, which have gone down, with a concentrated effort, we will see a dramatic change in these thefts over the next 6 months. That is my expectation. Today I'm rolling out our comprehensive auto theft reduction strategy. We call it CARS. What a coincidence. The five-prong plan to stop car thieves in their tracks includes prevention, enforcement, prosecution, consumer protection, and awareness. And I'll walk through each and every one because this is how we're going to change the status quo. The first part of the plan is a $50 million state investment to equip local law enforcement with new technology. $5 million this will be reserved for Monroe County alone, and $5 million will go to Erie and Niagara counties. Now they'll be able to apply for funding from cutting-edge tools. Surveillance cameras can make a difference. The gunshot detection devices that'll go a long way in aiding investigations, ultimately prosecution. The second part, who's committing these crimes? Let's talk about youth crime prevention. The second part of our plan is a statewide $5 million investment in prevention programs for teens and young adults in the most impacted areas, because we know most of these perpetrators are under the age of 24. And an old saying is that idle hands are the devil's workshop. We're seeing that very clearly. These young people need to have productive, enriching activities with adult supervision. People keep an eye on them, helping them find the right path to keep them occupied. So this vacuum of boredom and disengagement and social media that's out there as their main influencer, all that takes off. And I really want to commend our county executive again for creating the Juvenile Enhanced Diversion Stabilization Program, which has helped reduce, truly has helped reduce recidivism in the short time you've activated it. And that is truly a model for the rest of the state and the nation. So the funds we're announcing today will supplement what the county executive and the mayor have been doing, enhancing youth justice alternatives and diversion programs, and build more capacity to bring in more young people to help change the path they're on. And we have to have these kind of interventions. The third part of our plan is to direct state police to ramp up enforcement. State police has made a big difference. You know, the mayor has told me this, our chief of police has told me this. It's made a difference. I'm proud that I can deploy state police in a strategic way where they are most needed around the state when circumstances demand it. They don't just stay with their jobs because that's what they do. They go where they're needed. And that's what I'm really excited about, is bringing more resources from our state police here as well. And so they'll partner with law enforcement again in our high theft areas. They'll help increase crackdowns, investigations. They'll provide mapping and data resources to help identify where the gangs are, where the crews are that are responsible for this spike in auto thefts. And the fourth part of our strategy is about strengthening prosecution. Right now, DAs in the hardest hit counties are struggling. The volume is unbelievable on top of their normal workload, and we need to help them. In fiscal year 2024, we invested $150 million in prosecution and in discovery enhancements across the state. Over $7.5 million of that is going to areas hardest hit by car thefts right here in Western New York. But it'll take more than just the resources. Resources is code word for money, in case you haven't figured it out before. When we say resources, we're talking about money. I get it. Our prosecutors, our law enforcement state, all must work together. And I also want to give a shout out to our United States Attorney, Trini Ross, for her work in bringing the resources of the federal government to bear on dealing with the violent crime, but also being a partner as we deal with crime at all levels. So we're going to convene regular stakeholder sessions between the District Attorney Association of New York, who's working closely on our response, as well as working with locals in the impacted communities and their local law enforcement. And what we've done is model this after our successful intrastate task force on gun trafficking. When I first became governor, I said, I'm not seeing enough coordination. People know things in one area but not sharing it with the other. So we just broke down all those silos and barriers. I want to use that same model I did for gun trafficking and bring together the same people with a focus and a spotlight on enhancing our efforts to stop car thefts. But also, the final part of our plan is public awareness. There's a new page on our website where you can find useful information and resources, newyork.gov/car theft. I'm also going to have a PSA campaign to encourage people to take their own measures. I want Kia and Hyundai owners to get all the anti-theft software updates from their dealers. It's completely free for car owners, and we've sent a letter. Now, believe it or not, the governor of New York takes time to write letters. I knew, as a former county clerk in Erie County, Jamie knows about this, we have a database. There's a statewide database that tells you who all the owners are. Right, Mark? Right. I'm sitting there thinking, how can we let all these people know, because only 20% have taken advantage of protecting themselves? How do we let all these Kia and Hyundai owners know they're exposed? It's not their fault. It's a glitch in the technology. I said, there's a database. Search by Kia and Hyundai owners. And I bet you get a lot of names. 440,000 people in the state of New York will get this letter today telling them that they need to be alerted. A major increase in, I even said, put on this picture in color. Alert you, a major increase in car thefts has focused on certain Kia and Hyundai cars, including the one you have registered in the state of New York, telling them where to get their help, what to do. And I believe when this hits the mail, people are going to run out to the dealers and say, yeah, I don't want to have my vehicle stolen. I don't want to be a victim. So I'm excited about this. I'm excited about the fact that we're telling people that this old-fashioned device, remember the club? You don't want to be part of this club. This is to protect your steering wheel. And this can be purchased still very easily. This can be a great deterrent. It's visible. Someone looks in your window and they see this, they're moving on. So we're encouraging people to use this simple device. Once again, fitting it over the steering wheel, locking it in, and then walking away freely knowing your vehicle is protected. We also want to get the word out that victims can be reimbursed through our Office of Victim Services. I talk about how hard this is for someone. How are they supposed to get to their job? How are they going to pay for the increased insurance premiums? They can help get support for at least cover the costs of the stolen parts of stolen vehicles. And so we mentioned the letter. The letter's going out, this little symbol. I want people to go to get that technology, the software installed at the dealer, take out this little sticker that's going to be coming, that little red sticker, put it on your vehicle. We're real creative. Put that right on your vehicle. This says, don't bother. You can't break into this vehicle. That should have an effect as well, right? I mean, we are really trying everything we can think of here. And so it's the letter, it's the website, it's the public awareness campaign, the media. I thank the media for putting a spotlight on this. And this is how we'll start driving down this crime. And this is a serious problem. It has had fatal consequences. And it's a crime that no one should ever have to face. And working together with the people in this room and the committed men and women that they represent, I believe we'll make a difference. Because as governor, my number one job is to keep people safe, protect them, protect our communities, protect their property. We have the tools, we have the resource, we have the ideas. And to all the criminals out there, make no mistake, no more free rides, and there'll be consequences for anyone who dare break the laws of the great state of New York. So I'm grateful to everyone. I want to use this opportunity to thank this entire community for standing up to protect our citizens, especially our vulnerable citizens who are the most affected by this crime spree. With that, let me call up our county executive to share some of his thoughts on what we're doing, and hopefully working together will make a real difference. County executive.
All right, good afternoon. First, I want to thank Governor Kathy Hochul for the significant investment and resources that she's making for us here in Monroe County and across New York State. It's wonderful to be with the governor, with the mayor, my colleague Malik Evans of the city of Rochester, and our sheriff Todd Baxter, and all of my colleagues here in government. Elected and community leaders are working together to tackle the issues we're facing, and it's a fundamental element of government to bring everybody together. So again, I want to thank Governor Hochul and New York State for the investments they're making in our region today and for working with us to identify solutions to the problems we're facing, public safety being our top priority. The funding today is significant, and this is going to bolster investments in projects that my administration is funding in county government, as the governor mentioned before. The millions of dollars in investment in law enforcement technology and equipment that's going to help prevent, reduce, and solve crime is going to work hand in hand with the county's Regional Investigative Operations Center under the leadership of Sheriff Todd Baxter that we announced earlier this year. The REOC is a cutting-edge multi-jurisdictional hub for monitoring and rapid response to real-time criminal activity. Information flowing from multiple sources such as body-worn traffic and cell phone cameras, as well as public and private closed-circuit television, social media, drone feeds, and other electronics presents opportunities, but it also presents challenges. And this is where the state's investment that Governor Hochul announced today, and this technology along with the county's investment, this is where you can leverage resources together to create the REOC and make it even bigger and better than we originally envisioned. It's also a way to help leverage the 50 additional sheriff deputies that we've approved this year, over the last year and a half, that's going to help protect our neighborhoods. This is the future of law enforcement, giving the resources available to help them modernize the operations so they can respond quicker. I also want to thank the governor for recognizing the strength and potential of our JEDS program, the Juvenile Enhancement Diversion Program that she spoke of. Beginning back in May, we launched, as a result of the rise in juvenile crime, we launched the JEDS program. It was specifically targeted toward youth-associated violent crime and stolen vehicle arrests. So when you see it on the news, you read about it in social media, and we've had parents, I've met with parents, I've met with loved ones, they're just tired, they're fed up, and our community needs help. So we're talking about kids. These are some as young as 12 or 13 years old. They're involved in dangerous and violent criminal activity. And families are searching for accountability, and they're also asking what's next. How do we keep our children from falling back into that same criminal environment that led them to commit the first offense in the first place? So this is where the JEDS program comes in. JEDS reduces that time period where no activity, programs, or services occur in a juvenile case. It collapses that time frame, right, from when a child comes into contact with law enforcement and the criminal justice system kicks in. And it does this by immediately linking our youth with the probation department. I want to thank Chief Durante, Chief Tantillo, and our entire public safety apparatus for working so quickly to put this in place. But it works with our probation department also working with the families in an attempt to mitigate the cycle of dangerous behavior. So instead of waiting for weeks for a case to process through a law enforcement agency, the matter is fast-tracked to probation, where state-mandated assessments can be completed and the best course of individualized intervention can be planned. Youth who are at the highest risk and require remand are assessed immediately, and officers can be told whether or not court access is necessary. But again, what we're doing here is interrupting that cycle of delinquent and dangerous behavior to further protect our residents, bring accountability, and also help our young people get on a pathway to success. So we've received some positive feedback. This program is working. Since May 2023, when we launched the JEDS program, we've had 120 youth who've been active. In that time period, the recidivism rate for those 120 youth is just 5%. So just 5% of those young people engaged in another dangerous behavior. Conversely, the recidivism rate for youth 3 months before we launched the JEDS program was 32.5%. So we've managed to bring the recidivism rate for those young people from 32.5 down to 5% because of a diversion program that, again, shrinks that time period and links those young people with the services that they need and the accountability to the crime they committed. This is really, I think, the future of how we can engage with young people. The funding delivered by Governor Hochul today that's focused on diversion programs like the JEDS program, which can serve as a model for how to do this the right way, is going to help us continue and scale up this impactful program. So, Governor, I want to thank you for recognizing the success that we've had in providing additional funding to help support this. The JEDS program fills those gaps. It identifies resources, programs, and manpower so our probation officers can really provide that intensive supervision that our young people need to keep them on the right path. So again, I want to thank Governor Hochul for being here today. These public safety investments in our community and across the state are recognizing the challenges that we're facing. They recognize, though, also the opportunities that we have to leverage. This is what government should do: leverage local resources, state resources, and federal resources to look at innovative programs, pilot programs like the REAC, like the JEDS program, leverage all that good work local folks are doing to really be able to scale it up and make an impact. So thank you once again, Governor, for being here. Thank you for making these significant investments in Rochester. And now it's my pleasure to bring up my partner in government, who are working hand in hand, again, with all these challenges that are facing our community to really move that needle, the Mayor of the City of Rochester, Malik Evans.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive, and of course the Governor, for being here today. It is my job to close the program, but I'll just make a couple of quick comments. And I'll say that often when you talk about public safety, you saw what we did with gun violence. We got right involved there, and we were able to drive those numbers down. And one of the reasons why we were able to do that was because of the Governor in the state of New York. The investments that we made in the GIVE program, when we saw unprecedented levels of homicides, right before I took office in 2021, 81 homicides, the highest numbers of shootings that we had seen. The Governor took notice of that and regularly checked in on Rochester. This is a big state, but she saw the challenges that we were having in Rochester and said, I'm just not going to call you and say, oh, that's too bad, you need to do something about it, Mayor. I'm going to give you the resources to make sure that you drive those numbers down. And as a result of that, as you saw on the screen, we saw double-digit increases, double-digit decreases from those double-digit increases that we saw pre-pandemic, leading up to the pandemic and during the pandemic. And then all of a sudden, you know, it was an old song that they used to sing, play on Memory Lane on Sunday, and they say, if it's not one thing, it's another. And the other thing was the car thefts. So while we were seeing these numbers go down as it related to violent crime, we saw the numbers start to creep up around car thefts. And obviously you heard the county executive mention the JEDS program and some of the other things we put in place, the technology, our partners with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office and the state police to try to get those numbers down. But the governor is here, and as you heard, she is delivering to help us bring those numbers down. Because we are gratified by the numbers that are down as it relates to violent crime, but we will not be satisfied until we see all levels of crime level off and eventually dissipate. But in order to do that, it takes resources, it takes collaboration, and it takes coordination. And what the governor mentioned today are all things that check all three of those boxes. Bringing together all the resources to bear with a whole of community approach, from the federal level to the local level, to help address our most pressing challenges. Making sure that we use technology, that we are collaborating and talking on what the best practices are, but not throwing away the young 14 or 15-year-old that decides to steal a car, but intervening in their life to make sure that they change their trajectory, that they choose something different so that way they can have a better life, but also making sure that there are consequences. And those are all things that we think will work to help us change this trajectory that we were on as it relates to stolen cars. We're seeing those numbers decrease, but we want to make sure that it's sustainable and that it is durable. And we believe that we can be an incubator for the state, and the governor believes that as well. She saw the success that we had in the GIVE program, and we believe that this can be replicated to stop the car thefts that we'll see. And then the last thing I want to say is thank you, Governor, for being creative with that letter. Some people may say, oh, that's just a letter. But that is creative because when you get something from a government agency, like the state of New York, like the state of New York DMV, you're going to look at that. You're not going to throw that away because you're going to make sure, hey, do I have a ticket? This is something. And then it's going to be one more reminder to say, if you have not gotten your anti-theft device upgraded, you should do that. So it's another reminder to let folks remember that. And I love the sticker right there. Take that off and stick it on your car, and then someone may think twice before they try to go into that window. I'll conclude by saying, I often say, and my staff gets tired of me saying it, that it is not me, but we, that will help solve our most pressing challenges. And the governor is a part of that we. Monroe County and New York State and our federal partners are a part of that we. And if we all work together collaboratively, we can help bring about change in our community, and we will see a decrease in car theft. So thank you so much, Governor, for being here. Thank you all for being here. Go Bills. Have a good weekend. Thank you all for being here.